Welcome to the Unapologetic Man Podcast, the only podcast that's all about self-improvement, confidence, success, women, and being a man without making any apologies for it.
What is up, gentlemen? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the UMP. I really do appreciate you. And today, we're going to talk about the downfall of Dan Bilzerian. Have you ever heard of this guy? He is, in my opinion, the highest value man alive. And oftentimes when we analyze our desires, analyze what we really want in life, we realize that some people have achieved it, and we would be wise to investigate those people to see if what we want in life is actually going to bring us happiness. And Dan Bilzerian is, in my opinion, the quintessential example of a dude who has achieved what guys like us really want in life. Okay, what do we want in life? Let's just be completely honest and look at our base desires. What we want is to be rich as fuck. Anybody who denies it is lying to himself. And I know a lot of you guys have problems with money, but how awesome would it be if, like Dan Bilzerian, you had $350 million? What would you do with your life? Well, you'd probably party all the time. You'd go get a yacht. You'd vacation around the world. You'd have awesome adventures. You'd basically do what you want, when you want, with who you want. Is that not true? Now, I understand some of you are probably like, no, man, like you need more purpose. I want to have a family, etc. And I'm actually going to get into that. But on our base desires, you have to admit that's what you want. I know that's what I want. I know that's what I went for probably 2 decades in my life. And to a certain level, it was pretty damn satisfying to be able to attract women on command, to make money, have freedom, which is basically what money is. It's pretty satisfying. So we understand we want to be rich as fuck. Anybody who says they don't, again, they're freaking lying to themselves, probably because they have a scarcity mentality. And on that note, real quick, gentlemen, if you do have problems with money, which because I talk to you guys all the time in my inbox, I know probably 80% of you do, buy the book or listen to it on audio. It's called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. I strongly suggest that book. It will change your mentality when it comes to money. Okay, so we want to be rich as fuck. We want to have that freedom. Next thing, what do you think all guys want? Guys who are listening to this podcast, obviously, they want to be able to bang the hottest girls on the planet and get a wide variety of them, a continuous stream of updating hot girls who they can have sex with and have very little repercussions with things blowing up in their face. So we want the hottest chicks. We want to have sex with them whenever we want. And if you're like Dan Bilzerian, you want to have sex with multiple girls in a day. And in his case, I think he had sex with 24 girls in one day. I think, don't quote me on that, but I know it was like this ridiculous amount of girls. And he since said that he does have a sex addiction. So who is Dan Bilzerian? He's basically a poker player who had tons of success doing poker tournaments, became a multimillionaire. His net worth is kind of in question. Some sources say it's like 350 million. Other sources say that's way inflated. But it goes without saying, just based on his Instagram account, that the dude has a lot of money. He's living that lifestyle that we all want to live. So he's a poker player who admitted on a podcast that I listened to, all he wanted to do was just have fun and bang hot girls. That was his complete objective, and he's achieved it. Most of us have not achieved that. Most of us, as I mentioned, are struggling with money, have a scarcity mindset. We don't get the girls we want. We're basically settling for canyon mules, sea donkeys, and mountain trolls that are 6s and 7s. And we wish we could get to that level. Even though a lot of people are so butthurt about the fact that they can't get to that level, that they'll lie to you and say, no, that's not what I want. It's what we all want. On our base desire level, that's what we all want. So me being a very cognitive kind of fella, I consider myself a philosophizer. I like to look at people who have achieved that thing that I want and see if it gave them the happiness that we're all after. Because what are we all after? It's obvious. Happiness, contentment, being at peace. So did that give that to him? Well, based on my title, obviously it didn't. And he has admitted that going after those desires, those things that are basically transient sensory gratification, transient meaning short term, sense meaning sensory, gratification. After achieving those things, he has admitted forthright that it did not give him happiness. So think about this, boys. I mean, this is a really big deal if you lay down to think about it. When you go after having sex with tons of hot girls, trying to get the money, and just basically indulging in that sensory gratification, those things that are fun and that feel good, you are going to be left disappointed, just like Dan Bilzerian is. Now, obviously, I titled this The Downfall of Dan Bilzerian. Was there a big downfall? Not really. It was admittedly a way to get people to click into it, but I wanted you to hear this because the point is, yeah, he's achieved all those things. He's basically gotten the life that we essentially all want, but it's left him disappointed. So this gets into a concept that we teach in NLP of excitement or pleasure versus contentment. Pleasure is having sex with lots of girls, having 3 girls give you a blowjob as your finger blasting another girl from the backside. All these desires that you guys have, including eating shitty food, being on a yacht, buying yourself a Rolex, buying yourself a Ferrari, all that shit is desire gratification. It's basically in the realm of contentment, giving yourself a short blast of endorphins or those things that make you feel good temporarily. It's also filling up the ego because the ego is a bottomless pit of desires. It wants more, more, more. And even if you get that thing, such as a lot of you guys thinking that having sex with 10s is going to bring you contentment, once you achieve it, the high that you get, you do get a high, it doesn't last very long. So you get the high and then it immediately diminishes, thus making you need another high. Now, in the case of Dan Bilzerian, he's able to bang tons of Instagram models and these really hot girls because he set up a life for himself of extreme high value. His pictures on Instagram do what? They communicate pre-selection. They do jealousy plot lines without him even having to try. So the way it works for him is he's really high value because he has millions of followers on Instagram. He's surrounded by hot girls. He lives a cool lifestyle. Chicks will hit him up on Instagram saying, hey, can I come party with you? Or he'll hit up models and say, hey, we're having a party this weekend at like Monaco or something like that. Why don't you come down? No pressure, no big deal. Just come and party. Gets him in there, shows high value, and then he gets to bang all these chicks. Now, in the case of like Elvis Presley and other stars like that, it's funny because Elvis actually had a team of 3 dudes that will go out into the crowd or go out into public and be like, hey, you're really beautiful. You're actually Elvis Presley's exact type. Would you like to come have sex with him? And they would straight ask, as far as reports that I've heard, they just ask chicks, hey, do you want to come hang out, quote unquote, with Elvis Presley? And the girls will say yes. So the guy's just continuously getting his dick wet. Meanwhile, guys like you and I, at least me of like 20 years ago, have dicks that are so dry they're going to audition for the next movie of Dune. And we're like, dude, I really want that life. But when you get that, such as Dan Bilzerian has gotten because of his Instagram, he's got the pre-selection, he gets these girls attracted to him, brings them in, shows high value, and then gets to bang them, sometimes as many as 20 a day, according to reports that I've heard, he's left unsatisfied. Why? Again, it's transient sense gratification. You will never be gratified, you will never be happy, and you will never be complete on the sensory level of you just having fun and fulfilling desires. So we have desire fulfillment over here, and then we have what's called contentment over here. So knowing that Dan Bilzerian wasn't able to achieve contentment, we understand that just going for these ego desires, just trying to get our dicks wet, just trying to get money because we want to prove to others is all ego-based. It's all transient. It's short term. It doesn't fulfill us in the long run. What does fulfill us in the long run? That contentment. So going for contentment means having discipline, going after something that's bigger than you, serving others, and having a purpose in life that's beyond you just getting your dick wet or eating great food or being on a yacht. So I want to ask you, brother, what is your purpose? What would bring you contentment if you could achieve it? If you could achieve anything without any chance of failure, if you knew without any shadow of a doubt that you could do it and get success with it, and it would be serving others, and that's a really important part of this, in some kind of way, what would that be? Because we understand, looking at Dan Bilzerian, that that's not going to bring you happiness. So why even go for it? Why even go for getting all the money and getting all the chicks and having this life of fantastic abandon where you just do whatever the hell you want and all you're doing is having fun? Why go for that now? Now, I'm going to circle back to that point in a minute, but meditating on the fact that contentment is what brings true happiness. What would be contentment for you? Because listen, gratifying your desires is different from contentment. Again, gratifying your desires is just like that cotton candy rush where you eat all the sugar, it feels good for a moment, but then you feel like shit afterwards. It's the same thing with drugs and alcohol. You feel good in the moment, but then you're left actually lower than when you started. Why? It's all mapped into what I feel is the purpose of life. We understand that going after those things that our ego wants just brings us into a state of even more suffering. But going after something that has a deeper purpose, particularly when you serve others, and particularly when it's not always easy to achieve, that's where happiness lies. I can tell you guys with utmost humility, without trying to brag, that I am a very content person. Why is that? Well, gentlemen, straight up, not to be arrogant, but I have the ability to bang tens. I do. And that's why I want to teach you guys how to do it, because it is necessary for you to learn that so that you can get your queen. I have the ability to do that. And a lot of guys ask me, why did you settle down with your girl then? If you could go out and live a life just like Dan Bilzerian, why don't you go do that? Because guys, I have done that. I haven't reached the level of Dan Bilzerian where I'm worth 350 million and I'm banging 24 Instagram models a day. But when it comes to banging hot girls, I've been pretty close to that. I'm not going to lie. And just like him, it left me unfulfilled. He said in an interview, and I could not agree more with this, that every single girl you bang, without love involved, without connection involved, it takes a piece of your soul. So the more girls you bang, the more you feel empty. And then eventually you want to meet a girl you have true connection with, a girl who you love, and yes, a girl who you can have a family with. I have never been happier in my entire life than sitting there with my woman and with my daughter, just being a family. And oftentimes I'll straight admit, when I was in my 20s and 30s, I used to look at dudes with the family and be like, bro, you just lost. You got roped into the marriage. Life's a bitch. And then you marry one. And now you got these kids where you're carrying a car seat for your 3-year-old and a backpack full of milk for your baby. And you look absolutely miserable. Now, I will admit those first 4 years with the kid kind of did suck. But now that she's 4.5, at least in my experience, it is the best decision I've ever made. Last night, I was sitting with Marissa on the couch in our new home, and Lucia, our 4-year-old girl, was dancing to some music from the movie Sing. It's like this cartoon movie. And I was like, dude, this is one of the best moments of my life right now. And I know you guys listening who are trying to get laid, who are trying to go through that phase of your life where you master this skill set, are thinking to yourself, what the fuck? Are you serious? That dude who we see carrying the car seat and the backpack full of milk is fulfilled? Yes, boys. Why do you think that is? It's designed that way. Think about it. The entire purpose of humanity is to procreate and continue the species. So don't you think you're going to be rewarded more for settling down and raising a healthy child than you would just spreading your seed and banging a bunch of chicks? It works that way. And Dan Bilzerian is proof positive, as well as other men who have achieved this. I have talked to multiple men who have had sex with over 100 women, and they all say the same thing. After you do it for several years, it becomes unfulfilling. And that's why you'll see rock stars, baseball players, soccer players, all these famous individuals getting married. Because for years, I used to think, why would they do that, dude? Why would you have 110 when you could have 5? That used to be something I'd say all the time. Now I realize why that is. And again, Dan Bilzerian is proof of that. So has he had a complete downfall? No, he knows this and he's learned his lesson. But rather than you having to go learn that lesson too, take what he's learned and understand that that's the truth. When you go after short-term desires, just trying to have fun and fulfill this cotton candy-based ego sense, you're going to be left disappointed. Instead, brother, go after contentment, which means having a deeper purpose, serving others, being, yes, that family guy. After, and here comes the caveat, you get good with women. Because here's the thing. I'm still glad that I was able to go out there and bang some of the hottest girls on the planet. I'm so glad that happened. Because honestly, if I were married right now to Marissa, I'd be thinking, what if? What if I went out there and did that? What would that have been like? And it would have constantly been fucking with me. So you need to go out and have that fun. And yes, boys, it is fun. And yes, it is worth it. And this is why I say getting girls is a skill set. And in order for you to meet your queen, you have to go through that phase, those first several chapters of getting good with women generally. And that does include banging lots of hot girls. That does include being laying on your back and having 3 girls sucking your dick. I want you to experience that because it's pretty fucking cool. I'm not saying to abandon all this and just go for the contentment stuff where you try to reach your deeper purpose. You first have to go through that. It's part of the journey to get good with women, to bang lots of different girls, experience what you like. And yes, boys, get that skill set. So Dan Bilzerian is a great example of how to do so. And honestly, the dude's a champion. He is the highest value a man alive, in my opinion. Yeah, he's got dramas. People talk shit about him. They talk shit about anybody who's successful. But ultimately, he has achieved what we all want to achieve. And what I want to suggest to him, and I know he knows this, I wouldn't be able to teach him anything, but what I want to suggest to him is go find your queen. Now that you've experienced thousands of women and realized that will not satisfy you, now you have the opportunity to go settle down and have that which will satisfy you on a deep level. Having a purpose, serving others, having a family, that is why we're here. So the downfall, quote unquote, of Dan Bilzerian needs to be your learning lesson. You will not find satisfaction on the level of desire fulfillment. You will only find satisfaction on the level of contentment, which again means having a purpose, serving others, having a family, just as I was able to do. And I am happier now than when I was in the nightclubs, banging girl after girl after girl. But I will say this, that was pretty fucking fun, and I wouldn't have traded it for the world. Totally worth it. And you too, gentlemen, need to go out there and develop this skill set, put effort into it, because here's the thing. If you want to get that ideal woman, that girl who you want to settle down with, it's not a sniper approach. It's a shotgun approach. You have to get good with women generally. You have to have had those experiences where you have banged a bunch of really hot chicks. Because if you haven't, then that high quality girl that you want to get will see your lack of game and she won't get attracted to you. So it's all part of the process. But if you stick within the first 2 chapters, you don't get to experience the last 2 chapters, which are that deeper contentment, that deeper fulfillment. So anytime somebody has achieved what you want to achieve, look at them and say, did it bring them that contentment? Do they seem happy to me? Watch interviews with the guy, man, and you can see the spelling right there in the title. Copy that, paste it over into YouTube, and watch interviews with the dude. He's super high value, got a super strong frame. He's shredded. I have a lot of respect for the dude, but he does seem pretty disappointed. He seems pretty bummed. He doesn't seem very happy to me. Now, this is just my outside layman's perspective, but that's my assessment on it. It's because he's still stuck in those first 2 chapters and he has yet to find that deeper purpose. If I were him, maybe I'd go become a public speaker or perhaps start a podcast and say, hey, I've achieved all this shit. It doesn't bring you satisfaction. There has to be something deeper, and that's what I'm looking for. Man, he'd have great purpose if he were able to do that, because he's one of the few people on this earth that was able to achieve what every young 18-year-old boy thinks is going to bring him happiness. And he got that, and he realized it didn't bring him happiness. So go share that with others. Go teach others, as I'm trying to do with you boys today. I got to a point where I was banging so many girls, it just became empty, man. It was disgusting. It was fucking so unbelievably unfulfilling. But those first 5-10 years, totally worth it. Totally worth it, because it got me the game to be able to attract a high quality woman like Marissa, to be able to have a life like I do today and have that child who is my world. I would die for that little girl. And I want you guys to have that same experience. Being a father, best thing that's ever happened to me. And I strongly suggest it for you boys too, after you're able to attract women on command, because that too is part of the journey. Gentlemen, I hope you got something out of this episode. On Monday, I'm going to drop a podcast called Emote. And I want you guys to really listen to this because it's so important to be able to get a girl attracted to you in that first conversation. I'm going to drop a lot of really good information on that one, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I appreciate you listening. I drop podcasts on Mondays and Thursdays, so I will see you in the next episode.